Picture this. You're finally at a place in your life where you know who you are, what you want, and what you deserve. You've weathered storms, raised families, built careers, and accumulated decades of wisdom. You've earned your confidence, your independence, and your self-respect. So why would you settle for anything less than a relationship that honors all of that? Yet here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about. Mature women, especially those entering the dating scene later in life, face unique vulnerabilities that predators and manipulative partners specifically target. These aren't the obvious red flags that everyone warns young women about. These are sophisticated, calculated warning signs that exploit the very qualities that make you wise, compassionate, and successful. If you're a woman over 50, recently divorced, widowed, or simply looking for companionship after years of focusing on others, this video could be the most important 20 minutes you spend today. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just relationship advice, it's protection against emotional, financial, and psychological predators who see your life experience not as wisdom, but as opportunity. Welcome to a conversation that's long overdue. I'm here today to address something that affects millions of women but rarely gets the attention it deserves: the specific relationship warning signs that older women need to recognize and act upon immediately. Before we dive in, let me be clear about something. This isn't about becoming paranoid or closing your heart to love. This isn't about assuming every man has ulterior motives or that healthy relationships don't exist. They absolutely do, and you deserve one. This is about arming you with the knowledge to distinguish between genuine connection and sophisticated manipulation. If this topic resonates with you, or if you know someone who could benefit from this information, please hit that like button right now. It helps this important message reach more women who need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss content that could protect and empower you. Your support through super thanks also helps me create more in-depth research-based content like this that addresses the real issues mature women face. The statistics are sobering. Women over 50 are increasingly targets of romance scams, financial abuse, and emotional manipulation. But beyond the statistics, there's a deeper issue. Many of the warning signs that affect mature women are subtle, sophisticated, and specifically designed to bypass the wisdom you've accumulated over the years. Why does this happen? There are several factors at play. First, if you're recently single after a long marriage, you might be out of practice with modern dating dynamics. Second, if you're financially stable or own property, you become a target for those seeking financial gain. Third, if you're naturally nurturing and giving, qualities that served you well in raising families and building careers, these same qualities can be exploited by those who recognize them. But here's what gives me hope, and what should give you confidence. Knowledge is power. Once you know what to look for, once you understand these patterns, you become virtually immune to them. You don't lose your capacity for love, trust, or connection. You simply develop a more sophisticated radar for detecting those who would exploit these beautiful qualities. Today, we're going to examine 5 critical warning signs. These aren't the obvious ones like physical aggression or blatant disrespect. Those you already know to avoid. These are the subtle, insidious patterns that can slowly erode your independence, your financial security, and your sense of self before you even realize what's happening. Each warning sign we'll discuss comes with real-world examples, psychological insights into why these tactics work, and most importantly, concrete steps you can take to protect yourself while remaining open to genuine love and connection. So let's begin this crucial conversation. Your future self will thank you for paying attention today. Warning. Sign number 1, the accelerated intimacy timeline. The first warning sign is perhaps the most seductive and therefore the most dangerous. When someone pushes for rapid emotional, physical, or logistical intimacy far beyond what's appropriate for the actual length and depth of your acquaintance. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but we're adults. We know what we want. Why should we play games or move slowly if there's a real connection? This is exactly the mindset that makes this warning sign so effective and so dangerous. Here's the psychological reality. Genuine intimacy, the kind that leads to lasting, healthy relationships, develops gradually as two people learn to trust each other through consistent actions over time. When someone pushes for accelerated intimacy, they're usually trying to bypass the natural getting-to-know-you process that would reveal their true character, intentions, or circumstances. Let me give you some specific examples of what accelerated intimacy looks like, because it's often disguised as romance or maturity. The verbal accelerated intimacy sounds like this. I've never felt this way about anyone before. You're so different from other women. I feel like I've known you my whole life. I can tell you're my soulmate. I've never been able to open up to someone the way I can with you. These statements, when made within the first few weeks or even months of knowing someone, are red flags disguised as compliments. Why? Because genuine, deep feelings develop through shared experiences and seeing how someone handles stress, conflict, and daily life challenges. When someone claims to feel intensely connected to you before they've seen you handle a difficult day, disagree with them about something important, or navigate a real-world problem together, they're either being dishonest or they're confusing fantasy with reality. The logistical accelerated intimacy is equally concerning. This is when someone pushes for major life changes or commitments far too quickly. Why don't you sell your house and we can get a place together? I think we should combine our finances. You should meet my family next week. Let's plan a vacation together. Why don't I move in to help with expenses? You could co-sign on this investment opportunity I'm excited about. For mature women, this can be particularly appealing because it mimics the kind of serious, goal-oriented relationship discussions that characterize healthy adult partnerships. The difference is timing and context. In healthy relationships, these conversations happen naturally, after you've had time to observe the person's character, reliability, and compatibility with your life. The emotional accelerated intimacy often masquerades as vulnerability and openness. The person shares deeply personal information very quickly: childhood traumas, past relationship failures, financial difficulties, and health scares. They position this as trust and emotional courage. I don't usually open up like this, but there's something about you that makes me feel safe. While sharing personal information is a natural part of developing intimacy, when it happens too quickly and too intensely, it serves two manipulation purposes. First, it creates a false sense of closeness and special connection. Second, it often comes with implicit expectations that you'll reciprocate with equally personal information, giving them insight into your vulnerabilities, resources, and emotional triggers. Physical accelerated intimacy is more obvious, but worth addressing because mature women are sometimes told that being cautious about physical boundaries is prudish or game-playing. Healthy sexual chemistry and desire can certainly develop quickly, but when someone consistently pushes physical boundaries, dismisses your comfort levels, or treats physical intimacy as a given rather than something to be mutually agreed upon, that's a warning sign regardless of your age. But here's what makes accelerated intimacy particularly dangerous for older women. Life experience can actually work against you in this scenario. You might think, I'm a good judge of character. I can tell when someone is genuine. And you probably are a good judge of character under normal circumstances. But accelerated intimacy is specifically designed to overwhelm your normal judgment processes. When someone floods you with attention, affection, and apparent commitment very quickly, it triggers psychological responses that can temporarily override your analytical thinking. The brain chemicals associated with falling in love, dopamine, norepinephrine, and decrease serotonin, literally impair your ability to see clearly and think critically. This is why people say love is blind. It actually is, neurologically speaking. Sophisticated manipulators understand this and use it deliberately. They know that if they can create intense feelings quickly, you'll be more likely to make decisions based on emotion rather than careful analysis. They know that once you're emotionally invested, you'll be more likely to ignore or rationalize away behaviors that would have been immediate deal breakers if you'd encountered them earlier in the relationship. So how do you protect yourself while remaining open to genuine connection? First, establish and maintain your own timeline for relationship milestones. Decide in advance, when you're thinking clearly, what your boundaries are for sharing personal information, physical intimacy, financial discussions, and logistical commitments. Write these down if necessary, and refer back to them when you feel yourself being swept up in someone's accelerated timeline. Second, pay attention to how someone responds when you maintain your boundaries around timing. A person with good intentions will respect your pace and even appreciate your thoughtfulness. Someone pushing accelerated intimacy will react with disappointment, pressure, or attempts to make you feel like you're being unreasonable or overly cautious. Third, remember that if someone is genuinely right for you, they'll still be right for you in 6 months. There's no real urgency to major relationship decisions unless someone is trying to prevent you from having time to think clearly or get input from others who care about you. The key insight here is that mature love, the kind that lasts and enhances your life, doesn't require you to abandon your judgment or rush past your natural caution. In fact, someone who encourages you to trust your instincts and take your time is giving you evidence of their character and their genuine care for your well-being. Warning sign number 2, financial boundary. Testing and gradual economic control. The second warning sign is one that particularly targets the financial stability and independence that many older women have worked decades to build. The gradual erosion of your economic boundaries and decision-making authority. This warning sign is especially insidious because it often begins with what appears to be helpfulness, generosity, or practical problem-solving. It exploits the fact that mature women are often comfortable discussing finances, planning for the future, and making practical decisions together with a partner. The manipulation lies not in the topics being discussed, but in the subtle ways your financial autonomy is being tested, undermined, or gradually transferred. Let's start with the testing phase, because understanding this pattern can help you recognize it before it escalates. Financial boundary testing often begins with small requests or suggestions that seem reasonable in isolation, but follow a specific pattern of escalation. It might start with something like, "I'm a little short this month. Could you cover dinner? And I'll get it next time." This seems perfectly reasonable, especially if you've been dating for a while. The red flag isn't the request itself, it's what happens next. Does the person actually reciprocate next time, or do they conveniently forget? Do they express genuine gratitude and some embarrassment about needing to ask, or do they treat it as expected? Most importantly, does this remain an occasional exception, or does it quickly become a pattern? The testing escalates gradually. "My car is in the shop and it's going to cost more than I expected. I don't suppose you could help me out. I'm good for it, you know that." Again, helping someone you care about with an unexpected expense can be a loving gesture. The manipulation lies in the frequency, the expectation, and the emotional pressure applied when you hesitate. Pay attention to the language being used during these requests. Manipulative people often use phrasing that makes their financial problems sound like shared problems, or that positions your reluctance to help as a character flaw. "I thought we were building something together. I'd do the same for you without hesitation. I'm surprised you're being so cautious about money when we're talking about our future." The testing also includes observing your financial habits. resources, and decision-making processes. Someone planning financial manipulation needs to understand your economic situation thoroughly. They'll ask detailed questions about your retirement savings, property ownership, investment accounts, and monthly expenses. They'll position this curiosity as practical planning for your future together, or mature financial transparency between partners. But here's the difference between healthy financial discussions and manipulative information gathering. Healthy partners respect your privacy and your right to disclose information at your own pace. They don't press for specific dollar amounts, account numbers, or detailed financial histories until you're in a committed long-term relationship where such information sharing is genuinely necessary. Manipulative partners, on the other hand, are unusually interested in your financial details very early in the relationship. They ask follow-up questions that seem designed to assess your total net worth. They remember exactly what you've told them about your finances and refer back to it frequently. They may even compliment you on your financial success in ways that feel more like assessment than admiration. As the relationship progresses, the financial boundary testing evolves into more serious erosion of your economic independence. This is where many intelligent, successful women find themselves making decisions they never thought they'd make, often without realizing how gradually their financial autonomy has been compromised. The erosion often begins with joint expenses and shared financial responsibilities that seem logical and mature. Why don't we get a joint checking account for household expenses? It would be more efficient if you handled the bills since you're so good with money. We should probably combine our car insurance to save money. I think we should invest in this opportunity together. It's perfect for our future. Each of these suggestions can be perfectly legitimate in the context of a committed long-term relationship. The red flags appear in the timing, the pressure, and the gradual shift in who controls financial decisions and resources. For instance, if someone suggests combining finances or making joint investments before you've been together long enough to thoroughly understand their financial habits, debt levels, spending patterns, and money management skills, that's premature, regardless of how mature and committed the relationship feels. Pay attention to who benefits most from these financial arrangements. Are you being asked to take on more financial responsibility while they take on less? Are joint accounts funded primarily by your money, but controlled equally or primarily by them? Are there investment opportunities requiring your money but offering them more control over the decisions? Another serious red flag is when someone begins making financial decisions that affect you without your input or consent. This might start small, ordering expensive items for your shared living space without discussing it first, making plans that require your financial contribution without checking with you, or changing arrangements that affect your expenses. But it can escalate to more serious violations, using your credit cards without permission, accessing your accounts, making financial commitments in your name, or pressuring you to make major financial decisions quickly without giving you time to consider the implications or consult with others. The psychological manipulation around financial control often involves making you feel selfish, suspicious, or unloving for wanting to maintain your financial independence. I thought you trusted me. Why are you being so controlling about money? If we're going to build a life together, we need to act like a team. Your independence is important to you, but what about our relationship? This manipulation is particularly effective with older women because it exploits the very qualities that have made you successful: your ability to plan ahead, your desire to be generous with people you care about, and your comfort with making practical decisions. It also exploits any insecurities you might have about appearing selfish or overly cautious. But here's what you need to remember. Your financial independence isn't just money. It's freedom, security, and options. It's the result of decades of work, planning, and responsible decisions. Anyone who truly loves and respects you will understand that your financial autonomy is precious and will support your desire to protect it. The warning signs of financial manipulation also include pressure to make irreversible financial decisions quickly. This investment opportunity won't be available next month. We need to decide about the house by Friday. The loan terms are only good if we apply today. Legitimate financial opportunities and decisions can accommodate reasonable time for consideration and consultation. Watch for inconsistencies in their financial story. Do their employment situation, income level, and expenses add up? Are they vague about their financial obligations or past financial problems? Do they have reasonable explanations for their current financial difficulties? Or do the explanations keep changing? Pay attention to their attitude toward your other financial relationships and advisors. Do they encourage you to consult with your financial advisor, accountant, or attorney about major decisions, or do they discourage outside input? Do they respect your existing financial commitments and obligations, or do they pressure you to change arrangements that protect your interests? To protect yourself, maintain your financial independence regardless of the relationship status. Keep your own accounts, credit cards, and financial advisors. Make sure you have access to your own money and resources. Don't make irreversible financial commitments until you've had time to think clearly and get objective advice. Set clear financial boundaries and communicate them explicitly. I don't lend money to romantic partners. I don't make major financial decisions quickly. I always consult with my financial advisor before making investment decisions. I maintain my own financial accounts regardless of relationship status. Most importantly, remember that someone who respects you will respect your financial boundaries. Someone who pressures, manipulates, or tries to rush you into financial commitments that make you uncomfortable is showing you something important about their character and intentions. Your financial security isn't just about money. It's about maintaining the independence and options that allow you to make relationship decisions based on love and compatibility rather than financial necessity or fear. Warning sign number 3, social. Isolation and family alienation tactics. The third warning sign is perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated and dangerous. The gradual isolation from your support network, including family members, longtime friends, and other important relationships that provide emotional support, practical help, and objective perspective on your life and relationships. Social isolation as a manipulation tactic is particularly effective with older women because it exploits several factors that are unique to this life stage. You may have already experienced natural changes in your social network due to retirement, children moving away, or the loss of friends and family members. You might be feeling somewhat disconnected or lonely, making new relationships feel especially precious. You may also be at a stage where you're re-evaluating relationships and feeling ready to prioritize quality over quantity in your social connections. Manipulative partners recognize these vulnerabilities and systematically exploit them to reduce your access to people who might recognize their problematic behavior or provide you with emotional support and practical assistance that would make you less dependent on them. The isolation process rarely begins overtly. Instead, it starts with subtle criticism, reasonable-sounding concerns, or innocent-appearing preferences that gradually separate you from your support network. The criticism phase often begins with seemingly caring observations about your relationships. I've noticed your sister seems to put a lot of demands on your time. Your friend Sarah always seems to dominate the conversation when we're with her. I can tell that your daughter stresses you out when she calls with her problems. Your book club friends seem a little judgmental and gossipy. These observations might even contain kernels of truth. Perhaps your sister does call frequently with problems, or maybe Sarah does tend to talk a lot. But notice what's happening. Your partner is training you to see your relationships through a negative lens, to focus on the annoying or demanding aspects rather than the love, support, and history these relationships represent. As this progresses, the criticism becomes more direct and frequent. You seem so much more relaxed when it's just us. I don't understand why you feel obligated to help your family so much when they don't appreciate you. Your friends from work don't seem to have much in common with you anymore. I think some of your relationships are holding you back from growing. The reasonable-sounding concerns are particularly manipulative because they position the isolation as being in your best interest. I'm worried that your brother is taking advantage of your generosity. I don't think your friends understand how hard you've worked to build this new life. Your daughter seems to only call when she needs something. I hate to see people drain your energy the way some of your friends do. These concerns are often accompanied by alternative perspectives on your relationships that paint you as the victim of other people's selfishness or thoughtlessness. This serves a dual purpose. It makes you question relationships that have been important to you, and it positions your partner as the person who truly understands and protects your interests. The preferences phase sounds like accommodation and compromise. Would you mind if we skipped your family barbecue this weekend? I was hoping we could have some quiet time together. I'd rather not go to your friend's party. Crowds aren't really my thing. Could we plan our vacation for a different week? I know you usually visit your daughter then, but this timing works better for my schedule. I was hoping we could spend Christmas just the two of us this year. Each individual request seems reasonable and even romantic. Who doesn't want to spend quiet time with their partner or have a romantic holiday together? The manipulation lies in the pattern and the gradual result. You're spending less and less time with other important people in your life. Pay attention to how your partner responds when you maintain your commitments to other relationships. Do they support your desire to stay connected with family and friends even when it's inconvenient for them? Or do they express disappointment, make you feel guilty for choosing others over them, or create conflicts that make it harder for you to maintain those relationships? As the isolation progresses, more direct pressure is applied. Your partner may start scheduling activities or creating situations that conflict with your existing commitments. They might plan romantic getaways during family events, create emergencies that require your immediate attention when you have plans with friends, or express hurt feelings when you prioritize other relationships. The emotional manipulation around isolation often involves making you feel like you're choosing between your partner and everyone else. I thought we were building a life together, but you seem more interested in your old life. I don't understand why you need so many other relationships when you have me. It feels like you're not fully committed to us when you keep running off to help other people. For older women, this manipulation can be particularly effective because it exploits the desire for a deep, committed partnership. After decades of juggling multiple responsibilities and relationships, the idea of focusing primarily on one loving relationship can seem appealing and mature. But here's the crucial insight. Healthy relationships don't require you to abandon other important connections. In fact, a partner who encourages your other relationships and understands that your capacity for love and commitment isn't diminished by maintaining multiple meaningful connections is demonstrating emotional maturity
and security. The isolation also extends to professional and community connections.
Your partner might discourage your involvement in volunteer work, professional organizations, religious communities, or hobby groups. You're always so tired after your volunteer work. I don't see why you need to stay involved in your professional association now that you're retired. Your church group seems to take up a lot of your time. Maybe it's time to step back from some of these commitments and focus on what really matters. Again, each suggestion might seem caring and reasonable. Perhaps you are tired after volunteer work, or maybe some commitments do take up significant time. But the pattern is what matters. Are you gradually becoming more dependent on your partner for social interaction, emotional support, and meaningful activity? Watch for how your partner responds to your independent interests and commitments. Do they show genuine interest in things that matter to you even if they don't participate? Do they encourage you to pursue activities and relationships that bring you joy and fulfillment? Or do they consistently redirect your attention back to the relationship and activities you share? Another red flag is when your partner discourages you from seeking advice or input from others about your relationship or major life decisions. I don't think your family understands our situation. Your friends don't know me the way you do. I'd rather we work through our problems together instead of involving other people. Outside opinions just complicate things between us. While it's true that relationship problems are often best solved between partners, completely cutting off input from trusted friends and family members is dangerous. People who care about you can often see patterns or problems that are difficult to recognize when you're emotionally involved. The most serious form of isolation occurs when your partner actively creates conflicts with your family and friends or behaves in ways that make them uncomfortable being around you as a couple. They might be subtly rude or dismissive when you're with others, create scenes or arguments that embarrass you in social situations, or share private information that makes you hesitant to confide in friends and family. Some partners, even more, overtly sabotage your relationships by sharing false information, creating misunderstandings, or positioning themselves as victims of your family's or friends' dislike or disapproval. Your sister has never liked me. I can tell your friends don't approve of our relationship. Your daughter is jealous of the time you spend with me. The result of successful isolation is that you become increasingly dependent on your partner for emotional support, social interaction, practical help, and perspective on your life and problems. This dependency makes it much more difficult to recognize problematic behavior, seek help when you need it, or leave the relationship if it becomes harmful. To protect yourself, make maintaining your support network a non-negotiable priority. Set clear boundaries around your commitments to family and friends. I have dinner with my daughter every Sunday. I volunteer at the hospital every Tuesday. I visit my sister once a month. I go to book club every other Wednesday. Pay attention to how a potential partner responds to these boundaries. Someone with good intentions will respect your existing commitments and may even express admiration for your loyalty to family and friends. Someone planning to isolate you will immediately begin testing these boundaries and expressing dissatisfaction with them. Continue to seek input from trusted friends and family members about your relationship and major life decisions. Their perspective is valuable precisely because they're not emotionally involved and they care about your well-being. If multiple people who love you are expressing concerns about your partner or your relationship, take those concerns seriously even if you disagree with them. Maintain your independent interests, activities, and commitments. These aren't obstacles to a healthy relationship. They're evidence of your vitality, growth, and engagement with life. A partner who supports your independence and encourages your connections with others is showing you that they love you for who you are, not for what you can provide them. Remember that love doesn't require isolation. Healthy relationships enhance your connections with others rather than replacing them. If you find yourself gradually withdrawing from people and activities that have been important to you, ask yourself whether this is happening because you're genuinely outgrowing these connections or because you're being encouraged to see them negatively. Your support network isn't just nice to have. It's essential for your emotional well-being, your safety, and your ability to make clear decisions about your life and relationships. Anyone who tries to separate you from people who love and support you is not acting in your best interests, regardless of how they justify their behavior. Warning. Sign number 4, emotional manipulation through guilt, martyrdom, and weaponized vulnerability. Fourth warning sign is perhaps the most emotionally complex and psychologically damaging: the systematic use of guilt, martyrdom, and weaponized vulnerability to control your emotions, decisions, and behavior. This manipulation tactic is particularly effective with older women because it exploits the empathy, nurturing instincts, and emotional intelligence that you've developed over decades of caring for others. This form of manipulation is sophisticated because it doesn't look like manipulation at all. Instead, it appears to be emotional openness, vulnerability, and deep feeling. It exploits your natural desire to comfort, support, and care for someone you love. It turns your greatest strengths, your compassion and emotional responsiveness into vulnerabilities that can be systematically exploited. Let's start with guilt manipulation, because this is often the foundation for the other tactics. Guilt manipulation works by making you feel responsible for your partner's emotions, problems, and well-being in ways that go far beyond normal relationship responsibility and reciprocity. In healthy relationships, partners support each other through difficulties, celebrate each other's successes, and take responsibility for their own emotions while being responsive to their partner's needs. The key word here is balance. Both people give and receive support. Both people take responsibility for their own happiness, and both people respect the other's autonomy and boundaries. Guilt manipulation destroys this balance by making you feel responsible for managing your partner's emotional state while receiving little emotional support in return. It starts subtly and escalates gradually, often beginning with statements that seem like simple expressions of feeling but are actually designed to make you feel responsible for fixing problems that aren't yours to fix. Early guilt manipulation sounds like this. I've been feeling so lonely lately. I guess I'm just not used to having so much time alone when you're with your family. I had such a hard day, and I was really looking forward to seeing you, but I understand that your friends are important too. I don't want to be needy, but I really depend on our time together to feel happy. Notice what's happening in these statements. Your partner is expressing feelings in a way that implies you're responsible for those feelings. They're not directly asking you to change your behavior, but they're creating emotional pressure that makes you feel guilty for having other commitments, relationships, or priorities. As this progresses, the guilt manipulation becomes more direct and more controlling. I don't understand how you can enjoy yourself when you know I'm home feeling sad. It hurts me that you don't seem to prioritize our relationship the way I do. I guess I just love you more than you love me. I don't know why I keep hoping things will change when you've made it clear that other things are more important to you than I am. These statements are designed to make you feel like a bad partner, a selfish person, or someone who doesn't love enough. They create a dynamic where your natural life activities, maintaining friendships, spending time with family, pursuing interests, handling responsibilities, are reframed as evidence that you don't care enough about your partner. T-way, guilt manipulation also extends to your partner's problems and life circumstances. You find yourself feeling responsible for their financial difficulties, their health problems, their family conflicts, their work stress, and their emotional struggles. While it's natural to want to help someone you love, guilt manipulation goes beyond normal support and makes you feel like their problems are somehow your fault or your responsibility to solve. I've been so stressed about money and it's affecting my health. My ex-wife is being difficult about the custody arrangement and I don't have anyone else to talk to about it. I've been having panic attacks and the only time I feel calm is when I'm with you. I don't know how I'll manage if something happens to our relationship. You're the only good thing in my life. Each of these statements might represent genuine problems and feelings, but when they're consistently positioned in ways that make you feel responsible for fixing them, they become manipulation. The person is training you to prioritize their needs, problems, and emotional states over your own judgment, boundaries, and well-being. Martyrdom is closely related to guilt manipulation, but adds an additional layer of emotional manipulation. Martyrdom involves your partner consistently positioning themselves as the victim in situations, the person who sacrifices more, or the one who loves more deeply despite receiving less appreciation or reciprocation. Martyrdom statements sound like this. I don't mind giving up my plans for you. That's what you do when you love someone. I know I'm not as social as you are, so I understand that you need other people even though I only need you. I've changed so much about my life to make this relationship work, but I guess that's just how I am. I give everything when I love someone. I don't expect you to make the same sacrifices for me that I make for you. I know we show love differently. The manipulative power of martyrdom lies in the fact that it sounds noble, selfless, and loving. Your partner is presenting themselves as extraordinarily devoted and uncomplaining. But what they're actually doing is creating a relationship dynamic where any reciprocal expectations or boundaries you set make you appear selfish, ungrateful, or less loving in comparison. Martyrdom also creates a debt dynamic where you feel like you owe your partner something in return for their supposed sacrifices. You begin to feel guilty for not matching their level of sacrifice, even when their sacrifices are either exaggerated, self-imposed, or designed to create exactly this sense of obligation. The most sophisticated form of this manipulation is weaponized vulnerability, where your partner uses their emotional openness and past traumas as tools to control your behavior and override your boundaries. Weaponized vulnerability often begins with what appears to be healthy emotional sharing. Your partner tells you about past relationships that ended badly, childhood traumas, health scares, financial disasters, or family conflicts. This information is shared in ways that seem to demonstrate trust, intimacy, and emotional courage. But as the relationship progresses, these vulnerabilities become weapons used to justify problematic behavior, avoid accountability, or override your concerns and boundaries. I know I get jealous easily, but I've been hurt so badly before. I have trust issues because of what my ex-wife did to me. I get anxious when you're away because I lost my first wife so suddenly. I know I overreacted, but I have PTSD from my divorce. The manipulation lies not in having these experiences or struggles. Many people have legitimate traumas and challenges that affect their relationships. The manipulation lies in using these experiences to avoid responsibility for current behavior or to override your right to set boundaries and have your concerns addressed. Someone engaging in weaponized vulnerability will consistently use their past pain to justify current problematic behavior rather than taking responsibility for managing their trauma responses in healthy ways. They'll use their vulnerabilities to make you feel guilty for having boundaries or concerns. They'll position your need for respect, consideration, or accountability as additional trauma that you're inflicting on them. This manipulation is particularly effective with empathetic, nurturing people who naturally want to help someone they love heal from past pain. You find yourself making excuses for behavior that would be unacceptable from someone without that traumatic history. You start walking on eggshells to avoid triggering their pain, even when this means abandoning your own needs and boundaries. The combination of guilt, manipulation, martyrdom, and weaponized vulnerability creates a relationship dynamic where you become entirely focused on managing your partner's emotions and needs, while your own emotional well-being becomes secondary or irrelevant. You stop trusting your own perceptions and start seeing every concern or boundary as evidence that you're not loving, understanding, or supportive enough. This manipulation also isolates you from your own emotional experience. You become so focused on your partner's feelings that you lose touch with your own. You stop noticing when you're unhappy, stressed, or uncomfortable because you're too busy managing their emotional states. To protect yourself from this manipulation, start paying attention to the emotional balance in your relationship. Are you consistently more focused on your partner's feelings than your own? Do you regularly find yourself changing your behavior, plans, or boundaries to avoid upsetting them? Do you feel responsible for their happiness in ways that go beyond normal relationship support and consideration? Notice whether your partner takes responsibility for their own emotional well-being or consistently makes their feelings your responsibility. Do they have coping strategies, support systems, and resources for managing their stress, trauma, and difficulties? Or do they rely entirely on you to manage their emotional states? Pay attention to how your partner responds when you express needs, concerns, or boundaries. Do they listen respectfully and work towards solutions that consider both of your needs? Or do they immediately redirect the conversation to their feelings, their struggles, and how your concerns affect them? Set clear emotional boundaries and maintain them consistently. You're not responsible for managing another adult's emotional states, even someone you love deeply. You can offer support, understanding, and comfort, but you cannot and should not sacrifice your own emotional well-being to manage theirs. Remember that genuine vulnerability is about sharing and connecting, not about controlling and manipulating. Someone who truly trusts you with their emotional struggles will also respect your emotional needs and boundaries. They'll work on managing their trauma and challenges rather than using them to control your behavior. Most importantly, trust your own emotional experience. If you consistently feel guilty, responsible for problems that aren't yours, or like you're never loving or supportive enough despite your genuine efforts, you may be experiencing emotional manipulation. Your feelings and perceptions are valid, even when someone you love suggests otherwise. Healthy love doesn't require you to sacrifice your emotional well-being, abandon your boundaries, or take responsibility for another adult's happiness. Someone who truly loves you will want you to maintain your emotional health and autonomy, even when supporting them through difficulties. Warning. Sign number 5. Disrespect for personal boundaries and gradual erosion of autonomy. The fifth and final warning sign we need to discuss is perhaps the most fundamental and dangerous: the consistent disrespect for your personal boundaries and the gradual erosion of your autonomy and decision-making authority over your own life. This warning sign encompasses all the others and represents the ultimate goal of manipulative behavior: to gain control over your choices, resources, and independence. Personal boundaries are the limits you set around what you're comfortable with in terms of physical touch, emotional sharing, time commitments, financial decisions, living arrangements, and life choices. Autonomy is your right and ability to make decisions about your own life based on your own values, preferences, and best interests. Healthy relationships respect and support both boundaries and autonomy, even when they create inconvenience or require compromise. Boundary disrespect and autonomy erosion are particularly dangerous for older women because they often happen so gradually that they're difficult to recognize until significant damage has been done. They also exploit the fact that mature women are often comfortable with interdependence and shared decision-making in committed relationships, making it harder to distinguish between healthy partnership dynamics and controlling manipulation. Let's start by understanding what healthy boundaries look like in mature relationships, so you can better recognize when they're being violated. Healthy boundaries in mature relationships include your right to maintain your own living space, even if you're spending significant time together. You have a right to your own schedule and commitments, even when they're inconvenient for your partner. Your right to your own financial accounts and decision-making authority over your money. Your right to privacy in your communications, personal documents, and relationships with family and friends. You have the right to make your own decisions about your health, your appearance, your career or volunteer commitments, and your personal goals. Healthy boundaries also include your right to say no to requests, activities, or commitments without extensive justification or guilt. Your right to change your mind about decisions without punishment or extended conflict. You have the right to maintain your own opinions, preferences, and values, even when they differ from your partner's. You have the right to seek advice and input from others about important decisions, including decisions about your relationship. In healthy relationships, these boundaries are respected automatically because your partner understands that you're a separate person with your own legitimate needs, preferences, and decision-making authority. When conflicts arise around boundaries, they're resolved through discussion, compromise, and mutual respect, rather than pressure, manipulation, or punishment. Boundary violations, on the other hand, involve your partner consistently overriding your stated limits, pressuring you to change boundaries that are important to you, or punishing you emotionally when you maintain boundaries that inconvenience them. The boundary violation often begins with testing, similar to the financial boundary testing we discussed earlier. Your partner will make small requests or suggestions that slightly push against your stated limits to see how you respond and whether you'll maintain your boundaries under pressure. For instance, if you've said you're not comfortable with unannounced visits, they might start showing up without calling and then act hurt or confused when you remind them of your preference. "I thought you'd be happy to see me. I was just in the neighborhood. I didn't think you'd mind since we're so close now." If you've expressed that you prefer to maintain your own living space, they might start leaving personal items at your home, suggesting improvements or changes to your space, or gradually moving more of their belongings in without explicit discussion. Each individual action seems minor, but the cumulative effect is that your space becomes less fully yours. The testing escalates as the relationship progresses. If you maintain boundaries despite the initial testing, the pressure increases. Your partner might express disappointment, hurt feelings, or confusion about why you're being rigid or unwelcoming. They might compare you unfavorably to past partners who were more accommodating. They might suggest that your boundaries indicate a lack of trust or commitment to the relationship. As the boundary violations become more serious, they often involve your partner making decisions that affect you without your input or consent. This might include making plans that require your participation without checking with you first, sharing private information about you with others, making purchases for your shared use without discussion, or changing arrangements that affect your schedule, finances, or living situation. More serious violations involve your partner actively ignoring or overriding your explicitly stated boundaries. If you've said you're not comfortable with certain physical activities, they continue to pressure you or forget your limits. If you've said you prefer to keep your finances separate, they continue to suggest joint accounts or shared financial commitments. If you've said you need certain time alone or with friends and family, they create conflicts or emotional crises that interfere with these commitments. The most serious boundary violations involve your partner using information you've shared in confidence against you, threatening consequences if you maintain certain boundaries, or creating situations where maintaining your boundaries becomes impossible or extremely costly. Autonomy erosion is closely related to boundary violations, but represents a more systematic undermining of your decision-making authority and independence. It involves gradually shifting the balance of power in the relationship so that your partner's preferences, needs, and decisions take precedence over yours in most or all areas of your life. Autonomy erosion often begins with your partner expressing strong opinions about your decisions and gradually escalating the pressure for you to defer to their preferences. It might start with suggestions. "Have you considered doing this differently? I think you'd be happier if you tried this approach. I'm not sure that's the best decision for you." These suggestions might be well-intentioned and occasionally helpful. The red flag isn't the occasional input or advice. It's the pattern of your partner consistently believing they know what's better for you than you know yourself, and increasingly expecting you to defer to their judgment. As autonomy erosion progresses, the suggestions become expectations, and the expectations become demands. "I really think you should reconsider this decision. I don't understand why you won't listen to me about this. You're making a mistake, and I can't just stand by and watch. If you really cared about our future together, you'd think about this more carefully." The autonomy erosion also involves your partner gradually taking over decisions and responsibilities that should be yours to make. This might seem helpful initially. They offer to handle arrangements, make calls, or take care of tasks that you find stressful or time-consuming. But gradually you find that they're making more and more decisions without consulting you, and you're expected to go along with arrangements you didn't agree to make. For older women, autonomy erosion can be particularly insidious because it often exploits concerns about aging, health, or managing complex responsibilities alone. Your partner might position their increasing control as protection, care, or practical help. I don't want you to worry about this. Let me handle the complicated stuff. I have more experience with this kind of thing. You have enough on your plate already, but the result is that you gradually lose control over important aspects of your own life. You find yourself living according to someone else's preferences, schedule, and priorities. Your own goals, interests, and values become secondary to maintaining harmony in the relationship. The psychological impact of boundary violations and autonomy erosion goes beyond the immediate inconvenience or frustration. Over time, these patterns erode your confidence in your own judgment, your sense of your own competence, and your belief in your right to make your own decisions. You start second-guessing yourself more frequently. You find yourself asking for permission or approval for decisions you used to make independently. You start prioritizing your partner's comfort over your own preferences as a matter of course. You lose touch with your own wants and needs because you're so focused on avoiding conflict or disapproval. This psychological erosion makes it increasingly difficult to recognize problematic behavior or to take action to protect yourself. When you don't trust your own judgment or believe in your own decision-making competence, you become dependent on others for guidance and approval, making you vulnerable to further manipulation. To protect your boundaries and autonomy, you need to first identify what your non-negotiable limits are and communicate them clearly and explicitly. Write them down if necessary, and refer back to them when you feel pressured to compromise limits that are important to your well-being. Practice saying no without extensive explanation or justification. No, I'm not comfortable with that. No, that doesn't work for me. I've decided not to do that. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation for your personal boundaries, and people who respect you won't demand one. Pay attention to how potential partners respond to your boundaries. Do they accept your limits gracefully and work around them? Do they express appreciation for your clarity and honesty? Or do they argue, pressure, or try to negotiate boundaries that aren't negotiable? Maintain your independent decision-making. Authority, especially about important areas of your life like your living situation, your finances, your healthcare, your relationships with family and friends, and your personal goals and commitments. While it's normal to seek input and advice from someone you love, the final decisions about your life should ultimately be yours. Be wary of anyone who consistently believes they know what's better for you than you know yourself, especially early in the relationship before they could reasonably have that level of insight into your needs and circumstances. Trust your own judgment and life experience even when someone you care about disagrees with your decisions. Remember that healthy love enhances your autonomy rather than limiting it. Someone who truly loves you will want you to make decisions that are right for you, even when those decisions are inconvenient for them. They'll support your independence and celebrate your competence rather than undermining your confidence in your own judgment. Most importantly, maintain your sense of yourself as a competent, independent adult who has the right to make your own decisions about your own life. This isn't selfishness or stubbornness. It's healthy self-respect and the foundation of any truly equal and loving partnership. Your boundaries and autonomy aren't obstacles to love. They're the foundation that makes genuine intimacy possible. Someone who respects your limits and supports your independence is showing you that they love you for who you are, not for what they can control or change about you. As we reach the end of our conversation today, we've covered 5 critical warning signs that older women must recognize: accelerated intimacy timelines, financial boundary testing, social isolation tactics, emotional manipulation through guilt and weaponized vulnerability, and the disrespect for personal boundaries with gradual erosion of autonomy. If this video has opened your eyes to important warning signs, please show your support by hitting that like button and sharing it with the women in your life. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you experienced any of these warning signs? Your experiences could help other viewers. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more empowering content. and consider supporting the channel. With super thanks for helping me continue creating these comprehensive videos. If you're recognizing these patterns in a current relationship, please reach out for support. Talk to trusted friends, family members, or a counselor who has experience with manipulative relationships. Remember that leaving a manipulative relationship is often a process, and that's okay. The important thing is to start taking steps to protect yourself. If you're currently single or starting to date, use this information as protection, not as a reason to close your heart to love. Set your boundaries clearly. Take your time getting to know someone. Maintain your independence and trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Most importantly, remember that you deserve a relationship that celebrates who you are, supports your independence, and enhances your life. At this stage of your life, you have decades of wisdom, emotional intelligence, and life experience. These are tremendous gifts that make you capable of extraordinary relationships. Don't let anyone convince you to settle for less than you deserve. Your past experiences have contributed to your understanding of yourself and what you need in a relationship. Trust that knowledge. You know more about love, life, and relationships than you give yourself credit for. It's better to be alone and autonomous than in a relationship that erodes your independence and well-being. There are wonderful people out there capable of healthy, loving relationships. You'll recognize healthy partners because they'll encourage you to trust your instincts, be patient with your timeline, be transparent about their finances, want to meet your family and friends, and respect your boundaries automatically. Knowledge is power, but only when you act on it. Consider this the beginning of a more sophisticated understanding of relationship dynamics. You're not becoming paranoid, you're becoming informed and empowered. The woman you are today, with all your experience, strength, independence, and wisdom, deserves to be celebrated, respected, and loved exactly as you are. Anyone who tries to change, control, or diminish you is not worthy of the love you have to offer. Trust yourself. You've survived and thrived through decades of challenges. You have excellent judgment and strong instincts. You are enough, exactly as you are. You deserve respect, consideration, and genuine love. Before you go, remember to like this video, share it with women who need this information, subscribe for more empowering content, and consider supporting with super thanks. Your engagement helps me continue creating content that truly serves our community. Go forward with confidence, wisdom, and an open heart protected by clear boundaries and strong self-respect. You've got this, and you deserve nothing less than the very best that life has to offer.